Geoholics.
Going on. All right. If that's not a Ted Knaak song, I don't know what is. Welcome back, Geoholics, episode 275. This is the point where my good friend and producer, Sean, would say 275. Well, producer Sean isn't with us this evening because he scheduled his company's open house on the night that we record, if you can believe that. This guy takes more days off than teachers do. I don't know what's going on with him, but it was important, something he had to do, so understand, gave him the day off. So we got Russ with us. Russ, I'm going to get to you here in just a second, but before we do, a couple things. We closed out our Friends of the Program list for 2026. Super impressive, who's who of the industry. So excited about what we got going on this year. It's going to be really exciting. Stay tuned for, bigger and better in every facet of the podcast. Got some new support that we'll announce shortly when it comes to marketing and content development. So we are trending in a really good direction, and we can't thank our friends of the program enough. We got some events coming up that I want to make sure we mention. Hopefully this gets out before we go, but we've got Geo Week coming up here in about 3 weeks, I think. I'm really excited. They moved it up or back a week, however you want to look at that. So now it's a week after the Super Bowl. Makes it a little bit easier to get there. Not near as hungover on Monday as you are during Super Bowl week, of course. So that's going to be exciting. We've got the Western Regional Surveyors Conference coming up in March in Vegas. That's going to be great. And we've got the TopoDOT Users Conference coming up. I'll talk about that here a little bit more. That's in May. That's going to be, more exciting than ever. And our guest this evening is going to tell us all about it. But this episode is powered by MLID, making aerial and terrestrial surveys faster and easier than ever before. To find out more, just go to emlid.com. Like I said, we got Russ Hall with us. Russ, what is up, man? It's been a bit.
Yes, it's been a week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you missed me this much already.
I know. You're pretty much a regular now.
Yes. I'm just trying to fill the very large shoes that Sean's leaving by not being here.
You're going to give him a big head. Easy, best scale that back a little bit. But how's the grandson?
He's doing good. He's doing the thing where, where they start to lift off you and hold their head up. Because he was just born around Christmas. So it's so cute. And then, the eyes, you could tell that they're starting to recognize shapes and faces a little bit better.
Yep,
so it's, and they make the little cooing noises and everything. So it's super cute.
Nice.
It's me too.
Yeah. That's great. That is awesome. Well, I've got two. I mentioned it, I think, last episode and probably every episode since I found out. I've got two grandkids, my first on the way. McKenna, my oldest, is due March 10th and Presley, my youngest, April 1st. So a lot of changes happening in my world coming up this year as well. Like 2026 is going to be an amazing year. I have no doubt about it.
Wow, you're getting two just like that close together too. That's awesome. They're going to grow up together. That's great. Wow.
Yep. And they both live here right by me in Phoenix, so it's great. And one's having a boy and one's having a girl, so things are aligning quite nicely.
Yes,
for sure.
How is the weather over there in sunny Arizona?
It's beautiful. Yeah, I was looking at it's like 75 degrees for the next 10 days.
Oh my goodness.
It's absolutely perfect. And next week is the biggest party of the year here in Phoenix, the Waste Management Open. I got a couple buddies from high school coming out for that. So it's going to be a banger. There's no doubt about it. The weather's going to be perfect.
Nice. Well, it's very cold down here in Florida. I don't know if you heard, but we're actually going to freeze on Sunday. It's going to be like 24 degrees. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Well, you could move to Arizona.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Get out of the humidity.
Yes.
But anyways, our weekly updates are brought to you, as always, by our good friends at TopoDOT. As I mentioned, the TopoDOT Users Conference is celebrating its 10th anniversary, if you can believe that. Join the community at Tuck 26 in Orlando, and that will be May 11th through the 15th. And register ASAP. I'm not sure if early bird pricing is still available, but regardless, get on there, get on the website. Of course, it's TopoDOT.com and get registered for Tuck 26. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. And I can't wait to be a part of it again this year. All right, our song of the week. I did really like that song, actually. I've been listening to that band all day, haven't heard of them. So, Russ, why don't you tell us all about it?
I like the song a lot, too. It's pigeons playing ping pong, and that's what we call alliteration. Dawn a new day. Pigeons Playing Ping Pong is a high-energy funk jam band from Baltimore, Maryland, known for its psychedelic grooves and wildly interactive live shows. I wonder what that means. Formed in 2009, the band has built a massive grassroots following through the relentless touring and a feel-good dance-heavy sound. Their music blends funk, rock, pop, and jam influences into an unmistakably joyful experience. With a fan base known as the Flock, the Pigeons have become a staple of the modern jam band scene.
Well, would you look at that? And we were talking before the show. Since I like their music, I guess I am now part of the Flock.
There you go.
There you go. Right. Our song of the week, as always, is brought to you by All-Terra Central, your Trimble dealer for all things survey mapping and even marine gear. To find out more, check out allterracentral.com. All right, let's get on with our Hexagon Weekly Pro Tip. This is a good one. It'll all make sense once you get through this episode. So why don't you go ahead with that one?
All right, Ken, I'm going to pose a question.
Please do.
Which statement best describes the fundamental challenge facing modern survey operations as point cloud data becomes the primary deliverable? Is it A, the cost of LiDAR sensors has dropped faster than most firms expected? B, field crews are collecting too many points and to efficiently store on local servers? C, survey data has shifted from intelligently selected coordinates to massive point sets without consistent data governance. Or D, office software has become more complex than field equipment.
Wow. That's a tough one. Do you think you know the answer, Russ? Don't say it, but do you think you know the answer?
I think I do. I do.
All right. Well, as always, if you, meaning the listener, knows the answer or thinks you know the answer, email it to us at info@thegeoholics.com. And for anybody that sends in the correct answer, we will send you I think we're promising $20 Amazon gift cards at this point. So, yeah, we're not expecting you to do this for free. Send us an email, make a guess, get an Amazon gift card. And while you're at that, please consider Diamondback Land Surveying for all your West Coast mapping, construction staking, topographic surveys, high definition 3D laser scanning needs. Whether you want to build a brick wall or the next Taj Mahal, give Diamondback Land Surveying a call.
I like that.
That's pretty good. I did not make that up. I took it right from the website, believe it or not. I saw it and I'm like, I got to use that. It's freaking hilarious.
That's cool.
And that website, of course, is diamondbacklandsurveying.com. TK, always stepping up and doing what TK does for the industry. So kudos to him and thanks to him as well for coming back as a friend of the program in 2026. Let's get our guest in here. Our guest this week is brought to you by David Evans and Associates. To find out more about the DEA difference, visit DEAinc.com. And I was just coincidentally in DEA difference training the last couple of days, got back last night. And here's what I can tell you. There's only two ways to find out about the DEA difference. One, be a client. Two, come work for us. Check out DEAinc.com. All right, we got Ted Knaak with us. Ted, of course, is a legend in the geospatial world. He's born in Philly, grew up in South Jersey. You'll notice his accent when you hear him talk. Attended Brown and Drexel University. He is president at TopoDOT. Career highlights include Rocket Man at GE Space Systems before entering the geospatial world. That sounds interesting. And he helped found Regal USA. And of course, he founded TopoDOT. His passions are family, business, and point clouds. Probably in that order, I'm guessing. But either way, Ted, welcome back to the Geoholics. Great to have you. Appreciate your time.
Well, it's great to be here, guys. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me again. And looking forward to just catching up.
Absolutely. It's always fun to catch up with you. And you've always got something new and exciting to share with us. And, this episode is no different, but we're going to get that in just a minute. But for those who, somehow may not know you yet, which is kind of hard to believe. Everybody knows Ted Knaak. Who is Ted Knaak, and how did your journey lead you into the heart of point clouds and geospatial data governance? That's a long question, but how did you get
Oh
into the
my
business?
gosh. How to get in the business? Um, well, I was a rocket man, so to speak. I worked on satellite control systems, General Electric. There, I did probably my most technical work, and I just was doing a lot of spacecraft simulations and things like that. So the interesting thing was, and that has fundamentally kind of feeds back into the geospatial world because what happened was well, like every good story, it's it's a woman's involved. So I followed my wife down here to Florida. I just left GE. I said, look, being an engineer and the Rocket Man was exciting for a while, but there's like beautiful women down there, and they all get paid to go out and have parties and drink. So it's like, because they're all like selling. My wife was in the entertainment industry, or what do you call it? Tourism. And I'm like, this is fun. I'm just leaving. So came down to Florida, got into Sports Electro Optics, was a small company, kind of learned about LiDAR there. Then they gave me a brochure to translate from German for that was Regal's first brochure when it
Mm,
was just Dr.
mhm,
Regal, and I saw that. Um, I uh, I translated. I said, "Well, this guy really knows what he's doing," and he actually had kind of things set up. They were just selling rangefinders at the time, industrial type stuff, but they kind of like did what I thought the company I was at should be doing, and I just
mm.
basically, in my own shy, introverted manner, I just faxed him once a week for 6 months until he finally said, "Come on over," and then he said, "Okay, you can have North America." So he had 20 people working there. It was all silly, but 17 years later, we kind of uh, basically amicable parted ways. We developed the software TopoDOT inside of Regal, and we started Regal USA. So, and in turn, I did all the hardware stuff. I've been here for the beginnings of scanning, the brutal 50-pound, which was
Oh,
light in the
yeah.
day.
Yep,
I think at that time the Cyrex had to be palletized and
yep.
carried a truck. The Regal was light at 50 or 60 pounds, and it was 80 pounds in the case, and you carried that thing up everywhere. I mean, it was crazy. So, but did a lot of application stuff there. And then once point clouds came in, all of a sudden my geospatial, my engineering technical knowledge just kind of really came into play because I had done a lot of signal processing,
Mhm,
spacecraft simulations, all of a sudden coordinate transformations and all that. That's what I did. You know, I could do that
mhm,
in my head. And that was pretty much the heart of a lot of geospatial stuff, right?
mhm.
So uh, so that's where I kind of even got my ideas for TopoDOT when that's another story how we started that. But I kind of like looked at things differently and said, it's just gonna, they're not processing things right. Try to tell people
Yeah,
what to do. Nobody listens, so we did it.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
that's
And
the
you've done it
the,
and
the
you've done it
nutshell.
exceptionally well, Ted.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
I always pinch myself once in a while. Say, oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been we're on like 15 years, I guess. It's what 2011 we founded TopoDOT. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a
Wow.
more, I guess, right? So
Crazy. Yeah, well,
it
congrats
is.
on your success, of course.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
so you've said that, point clouds are essentially a 3D picture, right? Which
Hmm.
they absolutely are. So why do you think that people, still why do you think that simple idea is still misunderstood
Hmm.
across the geospatial industry?
Well, I think there's a tendency to. I mean, and surveyors especially, they kind of look towards the data acquisition, right? And they're like that's the data, and and um and people, I think if you're thinking that it's almost there's an impression that's your final product, and they've attacked it off it. I'm sure Russ, you guys all have seen it. You get a scanner and everybody has all these points, and then in the early day it was completely like this. Well, I'm just going to give these millions of points to somebody, and they're going to be happy, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And then of course all the pain on the other side was pretty evident, right? I think it's really just that they don't look at it the right way. Like it's a 3D image and it really feeds a production process. And that's kind of the way to look at it. In other words, we've turned surveying is different now. You're acquiring 3D pictures that feed a production process that gets you deliverables. And that deluxe is like an assembly line of people just like extracting, right? And Russ, you guys know how you run your systems, your mobile lidar
Oh,
feeds
yeah.
5, 6, 10 people getting stuff on the other side, right? So you're running a little factory.
Henry Ford. That's why I tell people all the time, I'm the Henry Ford of surveying.
Exactly. That's just it. And that's why you're so successful, Russ, really, because you're looking at it that way, and it's a process. And a lot of things come together if you consider it that, look, I've got to look at this process. In every step of the process, I have to have a plan. I have to have an input and output. I have to assess quality. I've got to know what's going in, what's coming out, what are the requirements are, because I'm actually moving it through a production process to different teams. And once you miss something in that process, things can fall apart quickly. Misaligned data go into the feature extraction guys. Everything stops. Don't put the right requirements from the guy ordering. It's basic for whatever reason, it doesn't get acquired correctly. Basically all that stuff. So I think again, the Henry Ford. You're right, Russ. You got the right idea. The Henry Ford of I like it.
Yeah.
The Henry Ford of geospatial. What was it again? I'm going to use that.
I just have land surveying.
Land surveying. Yeah.
Russ is going to trademark that one.
Yeah.
That's right.
I know how he is.
Yeah, right. So I just want to follow up on that because you've also said modern surveying's been turned upside down and inside out. So what, if you want to elaborate, it seems like that kind of segues from what you're saying into that.
Yeah, it does. And I just made the upside down, inside out. I don't know if the metaphor is exactly correct, but let's put it this way. I think when you look at, and this is key, and early on, it was really relevant. People are starting to get it now, but in traditional survey, the intelligence is attached in the field. The surveyor decides what you're going to measure. He touches it or shoots at it or aims at it or whatever. And he goes, that's important. And he gives it a name. So, and so that intelligence is, so when you take a 3D picture, and this is why you're just a 3D picture, guys. It doesn't have much value because now all of a sudden, reference points aside, network control and the like, and targets. But the bottom line is you're just scanning a bunch of stuff. You don't even know where the points are falling. And the points don't even fall where they should. None of those points know where they are, and you don't know where they are. So, and as soon as, and kind of like we're in the land survey world, so the density isn't like in piping and stuff where you're 10 feet away from things and everything's a millimeter apart and you can kind of click, right? The points are all over the place, really, and there's spacing. You never know what it's going to be. So nothing's where it belongs, right? And nothing's right there. So you have to, that has a lot of implications, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you've turned it around, really. So I guess the turning around part is that your intelligence is now done in the office as opposed to out in the field, And so and the ratios have changed, right? It used to be 10 survey teams would feed one CAD guy because when he opened the things up, it was all named and everything, the lines came up, right? It was always fun to watch people expect that from a point cloud and go, well, why isn't it happening? I said, you just took a bunch of points. They don't even know what they are, right? And nothing doesn't know how they don't know how they connect. They're just floating around. It's a cloud. And it took you'd be people perplexed, why isn't it done? And why won't it just open up and do what I want it to do? And so now the numbers have changed, the ratios change. You got more people in the office, right? And practically nobody in the field, really. So that's the upside down, inside out. I had a metaphor to the inside out. I forget it at the moment. So, but anyway.
So, you mentioned it, field productivity has exploded, thanks to LiDAR and scanners and, the various ways we have the ability to collect data at this point. Do you think the industry, though, has become so focused on collecting more data that we forgot to ask whether or not we truly understand it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you have, it has been overlooked, really. And early on, because we've had some deep thoughts about I've had some deep thoughts, and I wrote a paper that's still pretty relevant, long time ago, I was going to ASTM standard meetings, and they were trying to tell back in the day, and they were trying to say, "How do you know your data's right?" And to be honest, and after like 2 years of wanting to blow my brains out, I said, "No, this isn't that hard, guys. Stop it. It's really not that hard. It's a puzzle, and you just got to fit together." So we just came up with some practical approaches to it. But the bottom line is, you just have to understand, like, the point cloud is its own subset of data. It's like attached to your control, but it has its own characteristics, and you have to understand those characteristics if you're going to apply it. And it can be as simple as this, like, let's say one of the characteristics might be noise, and you scan a wall, and how noisy is that wall, right? How many spots going up and down? Because we know the wall's flat, but the data's going back and forth, and noise isn't so much an issue anymore, but it used to be. But the bottom line is, if the noise is bigger than the thing you're trying to find, you're not going to find it too easily, right? So noise matters. And then let's say spatial density. If you're okay, let's take our favorite thing, roads. If you're trying to find a crack and your points are a half of an inch apart, it's still pretty dense on a road. Really hard to find the cracks. You got to have, so these are the things. So that spatial density is really important, and that spatial density is changes with distance. So that's an angle, incident angle, right? So there's all kinds of things that affect what you're doing all the time, and and how well data is aligned, point cloud to point cloud, and what can happen there. Especially if you try to kind of slam it together and it's not slammed right, or it starts walking off. There's all kinds of things that happen.
Altera Central. Altera Central is the authorized premier Trimble dealer for survey, mapping, GIS, forensics, and marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico.
Yeah, we love these guys. The studio sponsor for the Geoholics this year. They have 8 offices and provide sales, rentals, repairs, and support for the full line of Trimble products. GPS, GNSS receivers, robotic total station scanners, Seiko accessories, mobile mapping systems, used equipment, and field supplies, including Juniper receivers and tablets, LaserTech Troop Pulse rangefinders, and micro drone UAVs.
You definitely drew the short straw on that one. To find out more, go to alteracentral.com.
Let's talk about Carlson Software. Founded in 1983, Carlson Software is a privately owned international market leader in CAD design software, field data collection, laser measurement, and machine control products for the civil engineering, surveying, GIS, construction, accident reconstruction, and mining industries worldwide, providing one-source technology solutions for the entire project cycle.
You're dialed in right now.
I know, right?
Carlson's culture is always on the forefront of adapting and developing new technologies into practical applications while remaining rooted in the down-to-earth industries they serve.
Carlson Software's renowned dedication to customer service is unique in the industry. To find out more, visit
carlsonsw.com.
Speaking about the problems that you've just described, I'm curious what you think about dysfunctional data governance and like what are the most common failures that you see when organizations first adopt scanning into their workflow?
Yeah, good question.
I think they don't look at it as they're not looking at they don't really understand these parts of the data. And I think a lot of times, it's kind of the things we're trying to address actually, is that they don't quite understand the process that I talked about before. They haven't thought it through. Like, again, the acquisition requirements. Did you meet the requirements there? Okay, fine. And what are the requirements? Why should they be that way? Do you have, if you have control, how tight should it be? What should spacing be on whatever it is, but the bottom line is, if you have requirements for quality or, like say data characters is at the input and output of every step, you can follow the process and you can follow the process and you can manage it. But if you really don't do that, things fall apart pretty quickly. And it takes, so let's say it's basically, the dysfunction comes in that you're also not thinking through your Data governance also involves storage and sharing and access and things like that, right? It's all about your warehouse approach, the factors. So we'll talk to Henry Ford there for a sec, Russ. If your data warehouse is such that if you're going to build a widget and you got to drive 3 hours, it's amazing. Any survey will tell you it'd be stupid to drive 3 hours to get a part, come back, and then basically build your widget, your chair, whatever it is. If you have factory, right? However, I run into people all the time. It takes 3 hours for them to find data and get to it, and that doesn't seem to be a problem. It's just, well, that's the way it is. It takes me 2 or 3 hours to go through and find the intersection I want to look at because the files are too big stored. They're not organized. If they organized, you're downloading 200 gig to get to a light pole that you want to look at or something like that. It's basically you haven't really thought through what you want to do with this data and how you're going to make it valuable. And how you're going to, and then when you assess its quality based on the kind of processes we put in place, and things I talked about, you want to attach that quality and document it so when you go back to it someday, that quality is what it is. You don't have to think about it again. When you look at that data a year from now, which is what we all want to do, essentially, right? If you want to use it again, doesn't happen all the time, but you want to be able to say, okay, I know what I can do with the data and what I can't. And as a surveyor, it's not only you want to know, you are responsible for knowing. If does that make sense?
Yeah. I
I
think it's an important paradigm shift that we're seeing too, where we have to take ourselves out of the surveyors out of us, right? Not everything needs to be constrained to within a 1/4 inch. And as we see devices like iPhones or Omni Slams and all these other scanners, like they all have a place. And I think it's an imperative that like metadata and like what is this data, where it came from, like that is so important when you start mixing like high quality, high accuracy data to, something that's relatively accurate, but not, you don't want to pull an elevation from a manhole that was based on an arbitrary system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how you get in trouble. So, but they do have their place and not everything.
Absolutely.
And nothing lowers the price like reducing accuracy on a point cloud.
Well, let me exactly. But let me also say it lowers the price. It could be the most accurate point cloud in the world. If you don't know, like it was just sitting there and you know nothing about it, except there's a bunch of points there. It's still not accurate. It's still not valuable anymore because you don't know. And as a surveyor, you can't sign off on anything extracted from it, right?
Very true.
So if you don't save that's another aspect of data governance. If you don't save that and make that part of the project, we always kind of call things in point cloud projects, because it's called an acquisition event. It's its own entity, I say, you acquired it at a certain time, you acquired it with a certain platform that had a certain accuracy. As you said, there's no bad data really. I hate to even say quality, it is what it is. You just have to know, right? And then so it's interesting how, these topics affect the things like data fusion, where I'm going to take mobile data on the road. I'm going to take UAV data to get the rest of the corridor. Well, now you can't just throw those all in the same pot, stir it and say, we're good. You have to understand the provenance and you got to say, okay, I know what to use when. By the way, that's the experience and skill of the surveyor in the process, which people are starting to wonder about. It's like, no, engineers don't know that. And so that's anyway. So that's what it is. It's yeah. So anyway, it's I think we got it.
No.
Yeah. You mentioned a word there. I'll let you go here, Russ, here in a second. You mentioned a word there that I've never heard more than I have in the last 3 months, and that's providence and the importance.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing. Yeah, I'd never even heard that word before.
I only know it from the biblical term providence.
Providence with the world. There you go.
But I have heard it so many times in the last 3 months. I swear.
That might be a sign for something. Like the universe is trying to tell you something.
I will say, here it is. You know what? I'll tell you what. We've been doing a lot of work with lately, and I just noticed the questions they asked are pretty much what I had in Techno 1021. So I think somebody read it finally, and and all this stuff is getting around. I've been talking about providence for a long time. But the bottom line is, but the interesting thing is here, let's go back to the surveyor and kind of show you point clouds change things, but they haven't. providence, if you're a surveyor, I know you have a notebook. You go back to like, I've never been a surveyor, but I found it fascinating that you go back to historical books and some records, and find out who put that rock down there and when, and put an X on it to say that's the property boundary, in 1873, right?
Yep.
That's providence, right? But then all of a sudden, you take a point cloud and you don't give a shit where you got it. It's like I scan it, sits there. I would put a big point cloud in the cloud and I stored it. Go use it. Well, no wonder it's a system.
I mean, where I worked in the Northeast originally, you could pull a field book from 100 years ago and it would tell you the temperature. It would tell you the people that worked there. It would tell you if it rained. Like they recorded everything. And it's extremely helpful for understanding what they did in the field.
Yeah. And the fascinating thing is what we're saying now is like, look, things have changed immensely, but they haven't. Right?
Sure.
You just got to put it in perspective and kind of adapt. You don't have to change your survey career. You have to adapt to what's there now.
I think
well said.
I think point clouds do such a good job of recreating the environment that it gives a false sense of confidence that it is a exact spot on Earth or whatever, and people don't put all that information, like you're saying, into it, and that's the problem, or potentially is the problem.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, Russ. Keeping on this topic, when firms are running multiple scanners from multiple manufacturers and using different processing tools, what problems does this create operationally?
Yeah, but that's actually where a lot of dysfunction comes from. Because if you think about how they've attacked it, you have these companies and they may have several offices, they may have the like, and everybody's, they're trying to organize as independent entities a lot. Get your own business, go your own thing, go make money, whatever, come back. And, there's not a lot of crossover, right? So the bottom line is they all go out and they get the equipment they need and they start from the equipment perspective. I've just seen it a million times. But with that equipment came some kind of workflow, right? You know what I mean? They're all smart enough to say, well, what do I do with this point cloud? And somebody gave them a process. And that guy understands it, as well as he does to different extents. Now you have a guy in one office might do it a little better than the other one or whatever, but there's nothing that ties them together. But then they have another one. So somebody got the mobile system, somebody got the terrestrial, somebody got the UAV, and they're all over the place. And they're all doing different things now, and sometimes they're putting them in different places because nobody's thought, well, maybe these we should all have a data governance policy that covers all data, and have a common data governance policy that covers all data and does the same thing and talks about this provenance. So when somebody goes back or we want to use this data in some way, it can be used again, right? Which is the promise of point clouds that we talked about, So that's what happens. You get all of a sudden, and then management sitting there trying to manage 26 different processes, that everybody has. And why isn't it working? Why is that one misaligned with that one? Think about data fusion. Now there's different datums. Did somebody coordinate in that? No.
Yep.
Somebody went with the UAV, did another. Why isn't it matching up? Or why did the deliverable worse? Why did the deliverable come out off by 6 inches? Because you threw 2 point clouds together and ran a DTM and process on it, and it's not right. So so that's what happens, and you see it. Like I can name many things. You can just tell it was. Yeah, and it was tough to manage that too, and it still is. I mean, how's a manager when he's overseeing all these programs going, well, okay, I don't even know how to tie all this together, or what anybody's doing.
Yeah, massive undertaking. So I want to back up just one second here. You mentioned data governance, and we're going to be talking about that more here, in the next few minutes, for that matter. How do you define data governance?
Yeah, and I probably should have looked it up quick. I mean, you can look it around, but it's basically in the geospace in our world. Yeah, it's let's call it. There's an acquisition event, right? And you say, okay, so I would want to know. Let's say we could knock this off now, right? I want to know where, if there was control, that control should be part of the project. If there was targets and there was control, and then there's a report on that control, how tight those targets were. What's the RMS from all the target locations versus the actual targets, because that's the only traceability back to some document, right? That's actually a legal document, the survey document. Everything else is just a 3D picture, as we said. All the other points. So, but that ties them all together. And then, of course, we add other in our, in what I did in TechNet 2021 a long time ago, I made an amazing discovery. The world is not flat. So, and when I discovered that, I said, you know what? These guys are all trying to figure out how data is lined up, because that's the next step you want to know. Does it line up relatively? That's incredibly important, right? Otherwise, things fall apart quickly. So when you have different scans or using different scanners or the same scanner, whatever. And then I said, well, the world's not flat, so we can just check the vertical and color code it, and any elevation errors will show up, but also northern and easting will show up. Something won't line up; it'll turn colors, and you can see where to go find it. It works all the time. And so, so if you have these two processes there, so that's data governance. I mean, so data governance is understanding this quality, and then understanding the characteristics. What's important about it. The noise. It's become less of an issue now. I mean, it used to be some scanners were much noisier than others. Now they're really all good, to be honest. In our world, we're not doing diamonds or whatever. I don't know. We're not doing machine control or whatever. Or not. You know what I'm saying?
I would say it's probably better to say they all look good. All the data. It looks.
The data all looks good. Yeah,
it looks good.
Well, the thing is,
that's the problem.
Well, exactly. But it looks good but the interesting thing is, and this is what I've told. People ask me, what about what's the best? So I don't like to say agnostic, so to speak, or neutral. But the bottom line is, I say, look, what if I was going to buy a scanner? I want to understand the process, but I said, what you do is, if you want to understand if a scanner is working, you just, a mobile scanner, trajectory-based stuff, right? You just drive it up the same road on different places at different times, and you see. And if you want to see if the whole process is working, see how well it all fits together, because they can't fake it. The obstacles, everything it scans is control, so to speak, relative. And if they line up, it works out. But I remember in the ASTM standards, there was, when we went into these committees, they would talk about, the parameters on the scanner all the time, and how do you verify them and all that. I go, who cares? Just look, if everything's working, if the world, if one side of the telephone pole matches up with the other, and you drove past it twice, I guarantee you, if the median strip works out from both sides of the road and it matches, you did a good job on the trajectory. It can't fake it. Why? Who cares if last time you got it calibrated? If it's not calibrated, it ain't going to line up. It will come and bite you, and it'll show up everywhere. So,
every time.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, so that, and all that information has to be attached as in data governance to that. In other words, these reports, and that way you can go back and know, okay, quickly, not only do I have access to data, which is important, and get to it and identify it and pull it down, I know what I can do with it. And that's a surveyor's job. Everybody's on the role of the surveyor. That's a surveyor's job. We call him the geospatial administrator, so to speak. Who controls all that and make sure it works? So anyway, that's it. Just is the data applicable to the mission and the project and the objective? That's what the surveyor should be able to do, be able to say.
Yeah. So data governance, if I'm understanding it, it's kind of like it's, documenting and managing the metadata and, the provenance, right? I mean,
where does it come from? Yeah.
Where did it come
from?
How
timestamps is everything, That is it too old or is it too new? Whatever. You want to do it again? Did things change? It's governance. It's basically just the protocols and processes that you use to assure the quality of the data and be able to basically quantify and verify that this data is of a sufficient quality to meet your mission objectives, your project objectives. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. And like, I think, Russ, you said it, a little bit earlier, like when you're working on the East Coast, obviously, that's kind of like where the beginning of surveying started, right? And you can go into a courthouse and find these field books that are 100 years old. That's the data governance for that time, right? Now, because of the technologies we have and the ability that we have to collect data, that way of tracking and following in the footsteps is a lot different, but yet it's the same concept.
Yes. Look at you, Ken, taking it full circle all the way.
There you go.
There. Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
not just a pretty face.
I gotta just interrupt this part right now because I have been patiently waiting this entire time, Ted, to ask you about this announcement that you have. All day I've been wondering what it's going to be.
So what is it going to be?
Without further ado, please enlighten me.
Okay. All right.
Russ, can't wait.
Okay. Well, we're interested. So we're going through a bit a change here at TopoDOT, and we're going with a soft rollout because we couldn't have time to do everything. The website will still be behind us, right? But the bottom line, we'll do a soft rollout of our new name is TopoDOT Solutions.
Okay.
And a little tweak on our logo. Came out pretty well, but it's much more than a logo and a name. We have looked for business reasons too, and for others, but we basically and basically for our mission, we've kind of looked a little inward. We're actually looking at our established our TopoDOT community. And we're noticing the things I'm talking about, like the dysfunction and the things that people are having problems with. And what we've come to realize is we have solutions. We've done them. We've implemented them. We've done our TopoDOT obviously, but we've done our Topo Share. We understand provenance. We understand how to assess quality of the point cloud and all that stuff. But we were attacking it as, well, let me sell you this software and we'll teach you how to use it. Well, when one technician gets it, it doesn't percolate through the entire, and to the entire process and the entire company, the entire firm, right? And so we're seeing a lot of that. We're just all getting frustrated. Also getting frustrated with our TopoDOT tools not being used a lot because nobody knew they were there. And basically I realized for a while, I was like, okay, what we're trying to do with TopoDOT Solutions, we have to look at all this differently. TopoDOT Solutions is now more consultative or a consulting company where we offer those services. I mean, we actually look now as TopoDOT Solutions looks at in every case that we approach our clients, we have an umbrella of products, but we also have consulting services, training, and we kind of take those and we have a lot of knowledge to kind of come into your company and say, what are you trying to kind of talk to you and say, what are you trying to achieve? Because it's about changing your process, changing your culture a little bit, I mean, to basically be surveyors again with this new data and to basically say, look, the provenance is important. Just because it took you a little extra time to put this information on it, don't throw it away because you've actually thrown all the data away. It's useless now. If you haven't put the provenance, if you haven't done the quality, if you haven't done this thing, you can't use it again. And then be thoughtful as to how you're going to find it, how you're going to access it. And you don't want to drive 3 hours. You get 3 hours to download an intersection, right?
Yeah.
Because that is going to kill things too. And then how do you share this? And they should basically exploit the synergy of your manpower resources too. I mean, how do you if you've got to get some processing done, extraction done, production done, and you've got an office you're in Florida and you got an office in North Carolina that has capacity. Well, how do you use them? How do they get to the data? So, and then all of a sudden, if all those operational steps, if you really focus and look at that as the factory, as the Henry Ford, I loved it. As
I changed my title.
Factory, it was widget.
It says
we're going to come
Henry
up with
Ford
a
of
new
Point Clouds.
Yeah, the Henry Ford of Point Cloud. But that's exactly, you got it right. If you look at it that way, like you're doing production and all these things, and you focus on efficiency and quality, and even think about 3 Sigma and whatever, making it better all the time, then all of a sudden your processes will be faster, your production will be faster, your quality will be better, your production costs will go down, your your production costs will go down. You're going to be more efficient. You'll get things out faster. That means you're going to use your equipment more. So you're going to utilize your equipment. You're going to do more projects. You're going to have more revenue from that. Your cost per project will go down with production. And by the way, the other really thing that we're trying to do in solutions is to basically, what I call, get everybody out of a linear production mindset. What do I mean by that? The typical survey team, even with, mobile data, no matter how fast it is, it's better, faster, cheaper with mobile data to do on roads now, and everybody can do it. And we've had a big part in that. Very proud. But the bottom line is, it's still like you have 2 or 3 engineers that gave you the requirements. You give them a topo, and then you're done. You don't know. Nobody knows in the construction world or the maintenance world or anybody else that might be could be surrounding community, townships, whatever, that could use your data. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows where it is, and it doesn't get used. Everybody tells me you got 2 or 3 customers. It's an exception if they come back and ask for something else after they get their delivery. So now what do you end up doing? You end up storing data for no reason, costing you money, and you have valuable data. And even if you do all the provenance stuff, nobody uses it. And so it's not an asset, really. It's a burden after you deliver it. You should delete it all and go away, but nobody does.
Yeah.
So the interesting, and the other idea is that if you're in a typical, like we do a lot of, engineering quality stuff, so it's like construction, whatever, guess what? All the money is in the back end. You guys are playing in the small sandbox, or the surveyors playing the sandbox in the front end, where 1% for survey, 4 or 5% for engineering. The 80% of the cost going in construction, you ain't touching. Even though the guy could get earthwork volumes from you, clearances, basically there's all kinds of things. But question is, what we're trying to solve, how do you get to them? How do you communicate with them? How do they know who you are? Trying to solve that problem too. So that challenge, and we've been successful, to be honest. We're seeing it happen. So, So anyway, that's the mission. It's just to fulfill the value of point clouds, really. I'm sorry, the promise. The promise of point cloud was always, look at all the stuff we can do, and yet nobody does it. You deliver it and you go home.
Yep.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up question? So it sounds like in the first half, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're saying you guys, let's just say, Russ and Kent survey company, right? And we got a couple of Trimbles, couple Leicas.
Hold on a second. That would be Kent and Russ, but go ahead.
Patent pending. So then we have a couple, maybe we have a drone or whatever, right? So you guys kind of come in it holistically, and you're like, what are you guys doing with this data? And
what does it look like? Yeah.
What does it look like? What is it consulting? So we'll come in and we want to kind of like understand a little bit more your process and your structure. What's your company look like? Everything needs something. Everybody has a culture and like, so we kind of ask for those questions. And then we say, okay, tell us what your afflictions are now and what are your aspirations? How would you like it to be? Where do you see your challenges? And then we say, we typically start with a vision document, kind of do it in phases. We say, okay, this is what we think your vision is. This is where we think you'd like to be. This is how you think you'd like to operate. So we might say data governance. Would you like to be able to get any data you have and find it on your laptop within a minute and download it? And no problem. Petabytes, not a problem, right? Would you like to do that? Is that something that, this is going to be good? How about your production? What do you deliver? Now, the other side of it is then we say, okay, we look at your team and go, we look at our process that we've set up and I've shown people for years, and go, okay, well, here's how we're kind of have to scale. And here's what we're going to have to do in each section of this process to make you successful. we're going to help you put requirements on point clouds. We're not surveyors per se, but we can tell you what the point cloud should look like and what you want to look for relative alignment and alignment to control and what reports you want to give them, right? And, what reports you want to get from them to know that it's done. Even if you're working with a consultant, it's not you. We'll tell you how to put requirements that'll work for you. And we'll tell you what those metrics should be and how to apply them so you make sure they gave you what you wanted before you start using it. And then that flows through. And then we go, okay, now and you put it up on cloud and we use TopoShare and the way we're doing that. And everybody can get to it. So your whole team now can download that, be assured that that data quality has been taken care of by the administrator, verified. And then you say, okay, how's that production looking? Do you know what, is it up to snuff or, whatever? And anyway, bottom line is, well, you might need some training there because a lot of even TopoDOT users bought it 6 years ago and they haven't changed.
Yep.
I ran into it today. So I said, so no wonder it's taking you 10 days to do something we do in 4 hours, So let me show you what you missed in the last 4 or 5 years. So, and they just never called us, right? That's what it is. So the bottom line is, so we look at that, but we also then have taken another step. We're changing your process. And what we do is we look and say, tell us your high impact applications, your high impact things that, and we kind of focus on that first and say, let's get you from acquisition to deliverable on those high impact applications, the one that's give you the biggest ROI, and make sure that's running like a beast. And we organize our training around that, right? So, and then the other side of it is that we've learned, we adjust our training and our process to make it as minimally disruptive as possible. And that's key, because here's what we've learned. If we teach you too much, if we take the whole team for 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of production, forget it. Everything stops, no matter how good they're going to be afterwards. So we kind of tailor it to, all right, how are we going to work together and make sure that every phase of this process that we're putting together for you and is going to disrupt your current process. You're going to be able to get your products out along the way. Business goes on. The projects keep coming in. So instead, if you have 10 guys in your processing team, we'll teach 2. Work with your 8, get them. When they're up and running, we'll put videos and protocols together where you guys can affect your own training and your own stuff, and we'll help you along the way. We'll try to get you stood up on your own, but because we don't want to live with you guys, we will partner. We don't want to, partner for a little while. But the bottom line is, and then interestingly enough, like we've worked with some big rail companies and the like that we're working on, and we were offered them and they were very excited about it. Our marketing communications, Dylan, we have a little group here that does that. And we go, by the way, not only will we be in charge with documenting all the protocols and the like that you have to do, so everybody will have a place to go back, we will put them on the medium of your choice, get it on the website with an internal website that you guys use, make it usable, and then we'll actually produce some workshops for you internally. So like in this rail company, that's 24,000 miles of track, and they got people all over the country. We can't train them all, and you can't either.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure that Joe in West Virginia is like doing the same thing that, Sally in Florida is, with their UAV data, and it goes up to the cloud and it looks the same, and it shows up to the geospatial team day after, and it all looks good and they can use it, So that's the solutions, and that's the consultative part. And interesting enough, what we found in some of the feedback, I was pushing hard. I was calling guys a lot, and this particular rail company, whatever. But the bottom line is, I said, look, I don't want to be a pest. Is there a better way to communicate? Because he was busy. He goes, no, Ted, you don't know how alone I am. I'm the only one who knows how to do this. I have nobody to talk to. This is great. I'm just busy, but like I will get, he always got back to me, but it's like, I get back to you. No, this is fantastic. And then I put the vision document in front of him and said, he has something to show his managers who didn't understand all this, right? They didn't grow up with
Mhm.
this. And he goes, look, this is what we have to do. And they go, well, okay, well, that makes sense. And he's appreciative. And then when I gave him the proposal for the thing with our team and said, our team's going to be with you for 3 to 4 months getting this
Mm.
done in phases. Again, minimum disruption, a little bit at a time, but you're going to see improvement everywhere you go. And we're going to be measure it and then you're going to improve it. So there's no
Yeah.
risk. You just say, okay, yeah, you're doing what I told you. This is great now.
Mhm.
The guy, I mean, he was almost going to cry. He's just like, oh my gosh, I have a team. Because he's sitting
Yeah.
there as like typical technician,
Right.
he and another person, and they're just the technicians for the whole thing. They send out the UAVs, whatever. That's why I didn't
Yep.
hear from him forever because they're just throwing him all over the place. He's in a rail
Talking
company.
about.
They care, but they don't,
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know. So that's
So.
the big picture for that. We just
Mhm.
saw that as being really the critical next step, and to be honest, we saw a lot of stagnation, in TopoDOT usage, which we didn't like, and we realized it wasn't because it doesn't work. It's like
Yeah.
nobody knew how, and these processes were kind of dysfunctional, and we sold it, and our contacts were technicians and
Mhm.
maybe surveyors, but they didn't have the juice to go 3 levels up and say, "Hey, look, we got to do all this. We got to reorganize everything," and by the way, across the entire and
Yeah.
for that entire company. And that doesn't go far. And those guys, said, "No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's really nice." And so we're addressing that with TopoDOT solutions. Like we're we we've just kind of, and to be honest, half of it we've been doing. If you call us, we spend a lot of time with people. So
Uh-huh.
we're kind of like
Yeah.
getting paid for it now, which is nice. But the
Sure.
return on the investment is incredible.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
really
no,
incredible.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Mhm,
it's almost like these companies that, buy a piece of hardware, whether it be a
mhm,
scanner, drone, whatever, and it sits on the shelf because nobody, wants to take the
mhm.
time to get to know how
Mhm.
to use it and blah 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 blah. We're doing it a certain way right now. We don't need to change. It's working. Um, so I just for clarity, I want to understand. So obviously, I work for a company that we use TopoDOT, we subscribe to TopoDOT, blah blah blah. But if we want to take advantage of this new consulting side of things, how is that implemented? Is there what is the
Mm.
business model? What does all that look like?
Great.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna, so we would go to your company and, we talking at a level where it matters. So the bottom line is, so the thing is, I figured out the best thing to get everybody's attention and get upper management attention is to ask for money. Then all of a sudden they pay attention. So, and that's good,
Yeah.
So look, so what we do is we typically take and say, all right, we establish that there's a everybody recognizes an issue, and we haven't found anybody that doesn't have issues. There's something, right? And um, and then we look at the re, you know, and then we look at the high impact. We kind of look at where they are and help them analyze things. So we just basically went to a particular company and showed them that their production processes were literally 800% slower than what they should be doing with TopoDOT, right? So the bottom line is, so we said, okay, well, what would it mean to you? Let's just be conservative and say we make you 400% faster in your production. You're just using TopoDOT because they hadn't updated for years, right? Well, they got mobile lidar and it's being used. They've got maybe they have like they get 1,000 miles of they're doing 1,000 miles with mobile lidar, and I go all year. I said, really? It's light, right? And you go and you kind of figure it out. I figured, hey, it might be $5 million of revenue if you get 5,000 a mile for highway topo, whatever, something like that. You do some round numbers. So, what is the impact if we increase your extraction production, your digital model production? Well, the impact is enormous because
Mm.
it's not just we can increase the production, so your cost per project goes down. That extends your margin, right?
Mhm.
But what does it also do? It lets you do 4 times as many projects.
Mhm.
So now you go from 1,000 miles a year to 4,000 miles a year,
Yep.
right? Well,
Yeah.
hell, if 1,000 was 5 million, 4,000 is 20 million.
Yep.
Do you think you want to pay us to get your consulting and do this so you can make 15 million more in revenue with this thing and
Yeah.
have better margins on each project?
Yeah.
The
It's a
return
no-brainer.
on the consulting is enormous. It's
No question.
enormous. Yeah. And so, and I'll show you what we're really having fun with. I just love this, right? I'll take like the rail companies we're working with. It's really kind of tricky. Like they have some high impact stuff that's kind of different. And they go like, basically it's route planning for large loads. It's hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right?
Mhm.
But we can do all this, but they have to understand how the data governance, you extract 1,000 miles, how do you handle that data? How do you get to it?
Yep.
They were doing things like basically they would drive for 7 months on their geometry chart and just dump off the hard drives of 7 months of scan.
Mm.
Can you imagine? And the guys just had to go and deal with it, right? And nobody knows, no provenance, no nothing really. I mean, there was no real requirements on it, and they just kind of dealt with it. But the bottom line is not just that, and we're going to help them fix that. We're going to look at Starlink and do some things with them and show you how to do it on the train, So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And then the other thing is this particular process. Sure, we have all these tools to do it, but you also have to look in the minimum disruption thing that I was talking about before. They export to a 1995 software. That's how software was called, whatever. It just basically does these clearances, and it plans the route. We might, in the beginning, have to export to this ASCII character file, and so they can keep working, or they're not going to use it, no matter how good it is. Because I can't go in and I don't have a route management thing, right? So, I don't have a route management program, and, we can't do everything. So okay, well, we can't shut them down. So it gets really fascinating, and we're really having a good time with it. And they appreciate that that we even understand this problem and saying, look, we're not going to show you, we're going to show you new things, and we'll take you there and we'll get you, modernized, so to speak. But we also, it can be a long process because of the step by step we have to take. And so look at the conversations we're having now. This is beyond the typical surveyors go out, scan, and do something, right? And that's what we've found, and that's where, again, going all the way back to TopoDOT Solutions is coming in. We think that's our sweet spot. And to be honest, the response is just incredible, really. It's just really, I'm blown away.
Imagine.
There's just, there's a lot of guys that say, hey, get us up and running,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And they're
no
lonely.
surprise, but I mean, I love the idea. I think it's genius. I'm still just a little bit confused. So, you've got the TopoDOT platform, and you've got TopoShare, and then you've got TopoDOT Solutions, kind of encapsulating
Solutions, the umbrella. Yeah. Over training. We have a training program that's kind of fixed. We have TopoDOT Share, TopoDOT. We have products. And then we have our consulting we sit down with you and say, okay, here's what we'll do, Yeah. And then we give you a question. Yeah. We give you a price as we put that together.
Okay. That's where I was trying to get with this. Is it like a per company solution, right?
It's a tailored solution. No, that's why I kind of went to rail to the mobile LiDAR. It was totally different, right? I've really got to understand, how do you make your money and how do we help you, And we can't do it all at once. So, so it's, and so we take them through that process, and we do it in a way that minimizes their risk and their cost. Like I said, the risk is, we might want, it's projects can be hundreds of thousands, but, $100,000 or whatever every year or whatever. But the bottom line is we'll do it in sections. Did this section work? Are you satisfied? Did we fulfill our requirements? Is your data governance better now? Is it organized better? Can you get to it on your laptop? We'll show you. Somebody signs off and says yes, and we go to the next step. So there's no real high risk in it. And again, we just design it not to screw up your current processes, right? Your current production, so to speak. So that's it. So we start working in a world where, what we're interesting. This inspired me when I was looking at, the role of the modern surveyor and say, look, we have to, we have to play in places where you know, our knowledge or the surveyor's knowledge that they have to play there and establish themselves in places where their knowledge and expertise is valuable, right? And that's, and you gotta be thoughtful about that. Same thing with us. I was like, I gotta take my own advice. You know, our knowledge and our knowledge and expertise is this, and there's value to it. And and it's not that we minded helping people and giving away, but it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't helping anybody. Us training 2 or 3 technicians and showing them how something works, and they would just die again and again because, you know, they're not going to take it through the company. They're not going to do a presentation and say, "Hey, look, we got to get a TopoShare. What's TopoShare?" Well, no, it won't work. We keep it on project wise. Okay, fine. Well, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, fine. The guy goes away. Well, project wise is not the right place for point clouds, really. I mean, it just doesn't help. It doesn't add anything, and that's nothing wrong with project wise. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, it wasn't. We were at the wrong levels. We weren't thinking big enough, and then I'll give a little. If you have value and you want to get everybody's attention, you just really put a price tag on it, and all of a sudden people start taking you seriously. It's kind of interesting, And
so
that's
you're more treating the cause than the symptoms now. Like it's a
exactly. I mean, a process. A process is good. Processes run companies well. On the flip side, entrenched processes are really an obstacle to innovation because it's hard to change them. And it's nobody's fault. What people think is like, I never let my guys say, well, those, we don't say anymore. And I hear it all the time, that those guys aren't productive. They don't want to see something new. Whatever, you're trying to sell them, whatever. I go, no, 90% of the time, they got to get their work done tomorrow after you leave. After you've done your demo, they got to get their work done tomorrow. And nobody's trained to use your stuff. And if it's too big a lift, it's too much risk. And so we're really trying to be thoughtful about that too. Sure. And again, we kind of analyze what the returns are. So in that one example, we're $15 million on a whatever it is. I mean, I'll just throw I don't know what's going to be 150,000 or whatever they will come up with the proposal over over a year or so. He's like, okay, I'd do it all day long. I mean, I wish I got that in the stock market. It'd be great.
Right. Yeah. I mean, either way, if you want to increase production and, increase profits and everything, I mean, this is a great idea. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great. And do you mind if I circle back to something that you said, Kent, before when you were asking about TopoShare? So is TopoShare being changed at all in this pivot? And as a very avid TopoShare enterprise user, I don't know if you guys see all those metrics, but I feel like we use it a lot. So.
We look at the metrics are exciting. To be honest, and we thank you. And to be honest, Russell, I thank you really. One of the early adopters that just really ran with it, and you get it, and and it just really it helps you. You can tell it helps your business. It does what it has to do. The data governance is really, really unspeakably useful, right?
TopoDOT. They're an original.
I know. They are an OG friend of the program.
TopoDOT, if you didn't know, is a comprehensive solution to manage point cloud data, assess data quality, and extract topographies, models, analysis, and other forms of digital twins.
Yeah, geospatial data acquired along road, rail, utility, and other land survey applications present unique processing challenges.
The TopoDOT production process is designed to meet these challenges with the right balance between automation and quality, thereby ensuring complex project requirements are met at the lowest possible cost.
And I know you've heard about these guys, but to find out more, go to TopoDOT.com. Let's talk about Carlson Software. Founded in 1983, Carlson Software is a privately owned international market leader in CAD design software, field data collection, laser measurement, and machine control products for the civil engineering, surveying, GIS, construction, accident reconstruction, and mining industries worldwide, providing one-source technology solutions for the entire project cycle.
You're dialed in right now.
I know, right?
Carlson's culture is always on the forefront of adapting and developing new technologies into practical applications while remaining rooted in the down-to-earth industries they serve.
Carlson Software's renowned dedication to customer service is unique in the industry. To find out more, visit
carlsonsw.com.
Absolutely. And I think the update, I think it was last year, but where you can have the different sensors and they're in the same project, because like our preference, right, always is to use the most accurate cloud and then go to you know what I mean? So if we had a mobile scan, we want the mobile only and then go to switch to, let's say, UAV or something like that. So it's been very helpful. And it also, it keeps it nice and organized so you don't have duplicate projects. You know, saying like, you know, Ted's house UAV, Russ's house mobile. Now it's like, you know, they're all one
take what you need
container.
It's that warehouse, and you take what you need because you're the Henry Ford, and you're just producing those things. You produce, although you do custom, you don't do the same thing all the time. So so the Henry Ford metaphor is a little off, but you do custom. What do we need there, and how would I use it? And everybody needs something a little different, right? But your data warehouse is up to speed and running, and it just feeds everything. And you know, and so you asked what's new. So the nice part about TopoDOT, the TopoShare 2025, to be honest, you started using the last version. We appreciate it. That wasn't much of a product we kind of developed it over years, and it wasn't really, you know, the software, so to speak, was the guys, we got to rewrite it all. So 2025 got all rewritten. There's APIs in there, and there's all kinds of stuff, and you can see all the things we've added. We listened to what people needed, and guys did a great job, and it was incredibly it's incredibly powerful now, and then still just very reasonable and inexpensive, and you know, it's just really made to scale and to help you. The next step that's coming out there is TopoTask. So TopoTask, and it fits within our process, you know, focus, is it's going to let you work with your team from a management perspective, and they'll be able to like click on you know, tiled what do you call it? I haven't seen, the guys they've done it up, they're working on it, and they say in a few months the first betas will be out there. I'm sure we'll be calling you, Russ.
Nice.
But the bottom line is, the manager right now, like we started talking about this when I think our friends at DRP were going, it takes me 3 hours to figure out the status of a project, even though everything's going well. Love TopoShare, but I call these guys and where are they? What you got done and everything? And I got 6 guys working on one project and they're doing sections of it. It's 3 hours to figure out where we are, right? So we've solved that. We put metadata within the TopoShare browser interface. I don't know how the TopoTask actually is set up yet, but I haven't seen it work yet. But the guys are kind of giving me some user mock-ups, user interface mock-ups. But the bottom line is, you'll be able to, every user will be able to tell what they've got done, how far, put a rating on it, and this will just all feed to the manager. It'll show up and he'll know right away. Yeah, we're like, 73% complete. This is what still has to be done. Joe's been like working like crazy. He's ahead of everybody. But by the way, it's also going to rate people like, Sam's like really slow. What the hell? You can work from home, but let's get going,
Yeah. No, I really like this. I got to see, I'm going to have to stop by the office and see this, because I have an idea about what you're doing based on the other versions you have. So I have to see, I have to see it. That's an incredible tool to be able to monitor, especially as you keep growing and growing in size. That becomes a job in it of itself. As you said, 3 hours to be able, if you have a team of 10 to 20 people, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? The track, be able to efficiently track progress. And also, it's not so much about, it's more about seeing if someone needs help. Like clearly, if someone's slower, then you can, go in and help them.
Yeah, it's true. They're slow. Well, why are they? Maybe they're not, maybe they don't know how to use a tool. So, like,
exactly.
why is, talk to the fastest guy, get them to talk this, and why are you faster than them? Well, this is the way I'm doing it. This is the way I'm doing it. Oh, no. Try this.
Yeah.
Try this. Yeah, it's not about, some people are, not always walking the dog. They just, because we're finding it, and we're finding that everybody has different kind of expertise levels, and maybe some people just don't quite understand how some of the tools work.
Yes, and people are very reluctant at work to ask for help because they don't want to seem like they don't know. So, you know what I mean? So it gives you like, it almost like you're proactively helping people, you know what I mean? Instead of waiting for them to ask for help. I mean, I'm very guilty of that. I loathe asking for help sometimes, but
and sometimes,
or saying I don't understand something,
Oh no. And you're not the exception, which is really, it's really tough. Anyway, so, but that's the next exciting thing. We got some AI stuff going down here and there. And that's interesting. We're trying to be thoughtful about where that fits in. We don't want to be like, I think you probably all saw like Bentley and S3, the Google Earth is like getting together to find light poles and stuff. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's just asset surveys are going to be, it's going to take over there. So, so if you're a surveyor, don't set yourself up there. That's going to be commodity unless you got a big scale, you got a big, business plan that scale big, low margins, do it. Okay, fine. But that's not our world, you got to go where your expertise and your knowledge matters, and stuff like that. So,
But on that note, I'd love to get your perspective on, you mentioned earlier the modern surveyor. We're evolving into, data governors, interpreters, and quality stewards. I like those terms, but what skills do you think surveyors need to develop, now to stay relevant during this transformation?
I think, well, like I'm always always a big advocate for the fundamentals of survey. You should, and that's where, I mean, I've never been a surveyor, but I've learned from you guys and, all the surveyors we work with, and we got a good feel for it, and I've absorbed a lot. But the bottom line is that's the foundation is still the foundation. So great. But the other side is, I think it really comes to really taking some time. And gosh, I'm going to rewrite Tech Knaak 2021. But it really, if I was just as a survey, just read what data characteristics matter and why they're important. It ain't rocket science, to be honest. It's really, and if you do, and you understand that, you'll understand a little bit more about what you're doing, and and how the process works, and then understand the process and adapt to it. So I think there's, like right now, you want to be a production technician, you can do very well. You say, look, I don't want to be in the field anymore, but a surveyor who understands what the deliverable is supposed to look like, and then he extracts, he or she is worth good money, really, because it comes out the way it should be. They have good instincts because they've done the field, and they go, well, it's just got to look like this, and a lot of people like to make that transition, especially got a lot of middle-aged guys that say, I don't want to be in the snow anymore. That's reasonable. And then there's like the project and the geospatial administrator who takes data, who's making sure all the data governance is done correctly in an entire operation. Now, think about it. If you really want to exploit optimize your manpower assets in a large company with several offices, you want to be able to share data across plans, find the guys that have capacity to maybe process your and work with the guys that don't. You want to be able to do all that. So that means, so when you have an ecosystem of really well governed data, and somebody's got to maintain that, is it on the cloud? What data should be put in cold storage to get rid of it instead of cost less data, less money? And then, part of filming, how do you, like if somebody wants a viewer in a certain area, viewers are relatively expensive, but take data down and publish it where somebody wants it. They're very useful in certain areas, right? So publish it, and when you're done, take it out, because you don't want to sit there. It costs a lot of money to have it sit there, right? So the bottom line is, so a geospatial data administrator, we've actually got a training course for that person where he learns a little IT, how to get data up in the cloud, how to organize create your own data warehouse, what it means, what data should go up with it, what data should be extracted, how do you put requirements on data from the field, either internally or from a consultant externally? How do you make sure that you put data, you put requirements on data, and then what reports do you ask for and what metrics, so that you get what you want? So these are the things that we're actually putting in our training course that we have, and that's a very, very valuable position, so these things have all come because of this process, of the process, and then basically, how do you, and then and then I would learn how you take geospatial data and fit it into an application that's a high impact application, right? In other words, like, you know, a surveyor can look at the processes and say, okay, for that rail thing I was talking about before, that rail application. All right, well, how do I get my data from here so it feeds their process, their existing, you know, infrastructure, and how do I do that better? How do I use my data to get that? So if you can understand how those processes work, and it help to implement them and see the big picture, you can survey, you can do a lot of really interesting things, and professionally very, quite lucrative, really. You're worth a lot of money if you can do that. So I think, yeah, it's, don't gotta really go to school again. You just gotta go do it and understand it. And it's,
Mhm.
and those skills. That aside, there's a lot of people coming to geospatial now with alternative skills that are really useful.
Oh, yeah. No
Electrical
question.
engineers,
It's a great
filtering.
point.
I mean,
Yep.
I seriously, Mauricio was amazing. Everybody knows Malady. The
Yep.
amazing programmer from when he was 18 or 19. You know the story. Like, I don't know. He just kind of walked in the other room.
Right.
There he was. He said, "I can program." He raised his hand. "Can you help me program?" "I can." "Okay, fine." Um, but but my background for signal processing and all, I just attack the point clouds differently than
Sure.
the guys who were computer scientists.
Right.
And we did, and I actually used some of my old spacecraft simulation know-how to do
Mm.
the IRI. The IRI stuff that we did.
Yep.
Do you know we're the only ones? There was there was 3 tests in Europe where backbreaking tests. We're the only one that actually passed us with a Leica on the front end.
Oh,
We're the
wow.
only ones that actually
Hmm.
could do it.
Yeah,
And
that's
that was,
crazy. I had no
it
idea.
was, yeah. So we have that that synergy between different knowledge domains really helps in what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
fun stuff, guys. I
How
think we're
so
up to time, huh?
we're
8:32.
we're getting really close, but I definitely want to give you an opportunity to, tell everybody how they can find out more, whether they're current, TopoDOT subscribers, or they're going to be new ones, whatever category you fall in, make sure that you definitely check out Tuck 26 because with
Mhm.
all these new announcements and stuff like that, it's going to be, like I say, bigger, better, and more valuable than ever. But how can folks find out more, Ted?
Well, everybody knows TopoDOT.com, and all the contact information is there.
Yep.
Um, what I'd encourage people to do, to really think about what, look for the obvious, in your process. Is
Mm.
this going as well as you'd like? So
I like that.
are you doing, are you delivering data once, and is it just stored somewhere and never used again? Because there are things you can do. That data is valuable. So how do you, use that value? How do you communicate with your clients? How do you open up your marketing opportunities? Why do you deliver it once and then just go to the next job? You know, and then think about it from from the business perspective is like, on the front end of every project, you might be pitching against 3 other companies who are going to drive down it's driving down. People are doing the same processes, the same equipment, more or less, right? And so you're under the margins are under pressure.
Sure.
But when you have the data and you have this, like the TopoShare approach where you have that and you can communicate and show everybody, you're 20-30% of the next guy. Nobody can compete with you again, right? If you want to extract more, but get paid for it. So, look at
Mhm.
continuing
Yep.
services, you know, arrangements. I'm working with, I won't say, but DOTs that are saying, well, could you just do management services? We can't hire anybody, but you can manage
Mm.
our stuff. I go, you know what? I think so. You know, um, this Winter Garden just came and said, look, they want to give us, our little town.
Yep.
Then they made that $6.5 million because we made a point cloud, color coded it until where the water was falling. they got a FEMA grant from that image. And they just called and said, look, can you manage our data? And so we're going to actually start looking at that. Russ, I'm talking, we'll see. But we're going to start looking at that because it's, they can't hire anybody. They don't want a survey crew. They don't want cat people. It's a small town, but there's hundreds of small towns. And they go, if you can do all this for us, we're in. There's so many opportunities if you understand, those guys don't have, they bought TopoShare and they have some data up there, and he goes, we want to keep doing it. They put a list, the city manager, John, gave me a list of 25 things they need from data like that they could use it for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that data is valuable.
Yeah, it is. And we want to exploit that, and we want to use it. So if people want to contact me, I mean, look, I'm not hard to find, so that's fine. TopoDOT.com, TK@TopoDOT.com, or Ted Knaak.net. TK is easier. And please, I'd love to hear from you. I love to talk about this stuff. So I'd encourage anybody that says, can you help me enhance my business? Because what we'll do is we'll look at it and we'll put a plan together and say, sure, it'll be low risk. It'll be a high return. And we'll just, every step of the way, we'll just make sure that we're going in the right direction together. So we want a partnership now that we kind of help you, and help you keep going back and saying, all right, after you've even done it once, what's the next high impact application you'd like to work on that we can kind of help you, get those tools and get those tools working more, more smoothly, seamlessly, faster, and you can earn more money.
Get creative with it, right? Get creative.
I just want to interject real quick about the TopoDOT user conference. Last year, I waited. I'm always the grasshopper. I waited, and then I was calling up, begging you guys to get some of my people into some of the classes that were full. So don't sleep on that. If you're planning on attending TUC, which you should if you're a TopoDOT user, sign up as soon as possible because the classes do fill up. And there's only a finite amount of computers, per room. So,
yeah. For sure.
Please do. It's really, you'd be so shocked how much do we still get in March, April, and we hate to turn anybody away. It's just that at some point we have to buy the computer. We have to not buy. We rent, 150 laptops now. So we just have to have those numbers, and so we do have to kind of close it, at some time. So please, you get in, but we're just thrilled. I think we'll have another really nice turnout. Last year was just off the rail. Robin did an amazing job, just kind of making it run. And we have some really fun things going now. And the leadership forum, please. That's the other thing. We're going to actually expand that. We were kind of late the first time. It was pretty much the TED show. It won't just be the TED show anymore.
You want it to be the Russ Hall show? You can turn it into that. Ask Langan about the Russ Hall show.
It can be.
I thought it was Arsenio Hall.
Well, I'm gonna advertise you as Henry Ford at surveying. So
I love it.
So,
that's a good one.
But we want to get more different perspectives, and really kind of dig into, what we're trying to do in the industry and where the things are. So
that's great.
Where the opportunities are. Yeah. And there are. We just got to look at it a little differently,
And I hear rumors that
I love it.
The ASPRS might have be there or have a booth or something.
What happened? I don't know where the latest status is. I would like to. Well, they have a meeting. They had the meeting. I think they couldn't do it last year, but we're talking about offering them a room there. We don't mind. We'll just give it to them. So they just kind of get in and talk for a day.
Absolutely,
it's the perfect place for them to be.
Absolutely,
it's a wonderful thing, and they can. We can work something out. I don't know where that is.
I'm just making a joke, trying to move the needle a little bit. I know there's some negotiations. You have some representatives from your
ain't much negotiation.
ASPRS meetings. That's all. It's just a little inside baseball.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, fine. Okay, so I'm just being manipulated here. Okay, fine. All right, fine. No problem.
Take that conversation offline, Russ.
There you go.
Well, let's wrap this up here. we'll wrap this up here. Russ, do you have anything else before we go? Otherwise, I'm going to let Ted have the last word here.
Well, okay. So once again, I want to thank you guys. It's always a pleasure. And thanks for everything. I've actually become a Geoholic. I listen 2 times a week now or something like that. And it's been great. And the other thing is that you guys do a really great job, so I really appreciate it. The other thing is I'm going to say is, I'm going to put it out to the audience. I know it's big. If anybody has any questions about anything I was talking about, just call me. It's not even have to be business. I'll tell you if it will work or not. I don't care. It's like we have plenty to do. We're fine. But if anybody thinks they need help or getting into it, or a young person getting in, I like to talk to them. Things like that. So please reach out and don't be shy. Because I'm old, I get scary, but everybody knows. I'm old. Some young people don't want to talk to an old guy. It's like, well.
No, that's an amazing offer, and I can tell you from experience that the Ted answers his text. Yeah. He answers questions that you send him.
Ted is accessible. That is true.
Absolutely. Just
yes. He's accessible. That's what I'm trying to say.
Just set aside some time, because I don't keep it short. So.
All right.
All right.
I think we're good. I appreciate that, Ted. I would ask you for a mantra, but you've given us at least 3 others in the past. So unless you got one like burning a hole in your mind right now.
A mantra?
I got one. The only good holic is a geoholic. How's that?
The only good holic is a geoholic. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Look at Russ. Is like he's like trademarking all the stuff tonight. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Patent pending.
That's when he's going to take over your he's going to take over your empire once again. I've been copywriting all this stuff.
Yeah.
What was I doing inviting him to be on the show?
Yeah. Just moving in. He's got all that hair, and he's like, just
handsome devil.
Guy in the middle, he's handsome devil.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right. Well, let's leave it at this. Everybody on this episode will be at Tuck here in just a few months. So we look forward to catching up with everybody and hearing about all this firsthand. So again, Ted, thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for taking the time to tell us about, everything that's going on, and, TopoDOT Solutions. I'm sure it's going to be a tremendous success.
Well, thank you guys. And so have a good evening.
Likewise.
And look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Here, New Smyrna. Try to make it happen. Okay.
Adding value and making friends. Another episode where we check those boxes. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@geoholics.com. Huge thanks to this week's featured partners, Emlid, TopoDOT, Altair Central, Hexagon, David Evans and Associates, and of course, Diamondback Land Surveying. We couldn't do this without you. Pigeons playing ping pong. Dawn a new day, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, few takeaways. Understand the process and deliver. Who is doing data governance correctly? Look up the word provenance. You understand it. And look for the value in your processes and exploit it. All great advice. Most importantly, as always, be safe and healthy.
Shop. You can need those troubles away. We're on a hilltop. Can you hear a teardrop?